And when you try and be all things to all people, you are nothing to nobody, including yourself. When it comes to my reputation, I want to be known for delivering a high quality product, because in the grand realm of thinking about being a small business and competing with the big business, where can I win? Well, I'm capable of delivering a high quality product. Most of the entrepreneurs that I've talked to, they get into business because they value freedom. They want to attain a certain level of freedom. And then I go back to okay, well, if you don't have money in the bank, it just doesn't matter how much freedom you have, because you can't go out and do anything. I see everybody trying to compete on all fronts, and they get to the end of the year and all that effort, all that labor, all that sacrifice, and they don't have anything to show for it. And that is the saddest part, because you should be able to look somebody in the eye and say, man, I'm giving you a high quality product. I'm doing everything I can to take care of you. Don't try and drive the price down on me. Pay me what the price is. You are competing on quality of the product or service, and you are competing on the service itself, the service aspect of how you actually deliver it, the speed that you deliver that product or service, and then the price point that actually comes with that product or service. So the problem with all of that is that most small businesses try and be all things to all people. And when you try and be all things to all people, you are nothing to nobody, including yourself. So I'm a big believer that when you're looking at quality and service and speed and price, you have to pick what it is that you're actually going to successfully compete on. And when I say successfully, I mean like that's what I'm going through with the Vickers. It's an apparel company. It's a garment decorating business, and the gentleman the family that I bought it off of, it's because the gentleman I was doing business with the last decade died of a massive heart attack. But the problem is, and I hate to say this because Matt, I love you to death. Matt wasn't running a business; he was running a charity. And I'm trying to actually run a business. And so when I got into the business, I had to start asking those questions. Well, what is it that Vickers does, and how are we differentiating ourselves? And the simple fact is, just like so many small businesses, Matt was trying to be all things to all people, because he really did deliver a high quality product. At the end of it all, Matt was a great individual. Like, the man truly servant style leadership. His mentality was to take care of people. Like when you were with the guy, he made you feel that warm and cuddly feeling like you were being taken care of. In all of that, though, not only was he trying to make you feel taken care of, everybody and their brother wants to haggle, and everybody and their brother wants to try and see just how low you will give the price, because they're selfishly thinking about themselves. They really could care less whether your doors stay open. So they're always like, well, what are you going to do to take care of me? And I never had a chance to have a conversation with Matt to say, you can take care of people without cutting your own throat when it comes to the price point. But Matt always had an answer. He would always give you that next level of discount or of knocking a price point down. You might need 20 or 30 items, and he would be willing to give you 100 level pricing. And inevitably, that also led to a problem with him trying to compete on speed, because he did have success in that, because he was trying to compete in what I feel are the wrong things. He ended up getting a pretty decent size of business. But because he didn't have any systems in that, he also failed in the speed side of it. And we found orders that where you should have had a 2-week turnaround were turning into a 2-month turnaround. So I'm trying to, one, I'm trying to keep it real. 2, these are things that I've had to address in business over the last 17 years. And I want to put them out there because I want people to understand you cannot be all things to all people. And you really have to question, like, what do you want to be known for? So, I mean, let's talk about this. Like, if you are in business and thinking about the long term, and I'll be honest, like one of the scariest days of my life was the day that I flipped on my open sign on the first Coffee Junkies operation. Because as soon as I flipped on that open sign, I realized like I'm supposed to open and flip on this open sign every day for the next 30, 40, 50 years. And the first day that I flipped on that open sign, that was a very daunting thing to set back and think that I just created something that if I'm successful, my responsibility is to make sure that these doors open 365 days a year for eternity. It's something that you have to take into consideration when it comes to going into business, because people don't think on it on that scale. And then inevitably you get to that, and I've said 9 out of 10 fail in the first year, and of the one that makes it, 9 out of 10 fail in the first 10 years. That means 99 out of 100 fail in 10 years. I can go further to say that there is an actual statistic out there that 80% of all business fails in the first 5 years. So if you realize that the odds are stacked against you and you want to at least give yourself a fighting chance, you really need to get into understanding where you are able to compete and what you want to be known for. So one of the reasons that I got into Vickers is because I'm not going to deny, like when I thought about those things, when it comes to my reputation, I want to be known for delivering a high quality product. Because in the grand realm of thinking about being a small business and competing with the big business, where can I win? Well, I'm capable of delivering a high quality product. So it's an area that I want to compete on because I'm capable of competing and winning on quality. So it's like, okay, there's a check mark. I want to compete on quality. Then I go back to my own personal life, and as a union rep, it was I wanted to serve people. So it became a natural for me that I gravitated towards that servant style leadership. And when it comes down to perception is reality, I want people to feel like they are taken care of. So if you give high quality service, again, it is something that I'm able to win. It is a realistic piece that the product and services that I offer, I am capable of giving good service and accomplishing, like it's a realistic accomplishment. And I'm getting to something with this. So then you get to speed. Now, I'm not going to deny that speed's important because, like I said, my based business is selling coffee and pizza. And I've expanded into other businesses at this point. But when you are serving people and you are competing for their expendable income in their off time or in their personal available time, you want to respect their time. So you want to have a certain speed of service. But when I really started breaking it down when it comes to speed of service, it's one of those where you are capable of delivering speed of service through repetition as you become more proficient in what you do. So the first time that you make a cup of coffee, the first time that you make a pizza, you're probably going to be a little bit slower. But the 1,000th time that you make a cup of coffee, the 1,000th time that you make a pizza, you're going to be faster and you're going to be more proficient at it. So I looked at it as I'm trying to respect other people's time, but I'm not trying to put speed at the forefront of what I'm doing, because I realize speed just simply comes through repetition and being proficient in what you're actually doing, which leads me to where I do not compete, because I've realized I cannot compete. I cannot win. And that's price. So at Coffee Junkies and Pizza Junkies, I will honestly say I compete on quality. I compete on service. And when you're talking about competing with other businesses, whether it be fast food or convenience-based businesses, you got to have a certain level of speed. But the price has always been what the price has to be. Why do I say it like that? Well, one, I am a very big proponent that, like, if you want cheap prices, you're going to get a cheap product or service. And to expect otherwise is having unrealistic expectations, and you're not being fair with the individual that you're actually dealing with. So when you are in small business competing with big business has a way of implementing processes and procedures, implementing technologies and automations that you just do not have the money to compete on. So to even try and to compete on price, it's a losing battle. It's swimming upstream. So when I went into business, I knew I'm not going to try and compete on price because it is not an area that I can actually win. And again, if you're trying to compete on all fronts and be everything to everybody, you are nothing to nobody. And there's a big pie out there. Everybody can win. It's just a question of where are you going to carve out your niche? Where are you going to develop your reputation? Because I'm telling you, you don't want to develop a reputation for trying to be all things to all people because you don't stand out as specializing in any one or two fields when you're actually delivering a product or service. So in small business, when you have to decide, you need to decide up front, where and on what level do you want to compete in quality, in service, in speed, and in price? Because it will dictate a lot of decisions that you make going forward and keep you focused on doing what you specifically do and doing it very well. So when you are going into business, you need to be thinking about these things and there's 1,000 ways to fail in business, following shiny things, being like the dog that chases every car. It's just a good way to get nowhere fast because much like this business that I've taken over, I'm not saying you're not capable of competing on all four fronts. I'm saying it's a losing proposition. I'm saying that there is no reward in it. If you are literally delivering a high quality product and taking the time to deliver exceptional service and you are running your ass off in order to be able to deliver it with speed and you don't charge a fair price, you're literally cutting your throat. And by cutting your throat, what I'm getting at is you're not making enough money to deliver a high quality product with exceptional service at an expedited pace. Thereby, you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off, chasing, and you're never actually going to reap any of the benefits that come from being an entrepreneur and taking on all of the risk and responsibility that comes with actually getting into business, which everybody that gets into business, I would honestly say, and I don't like speaking for other people, but most of the entrepreneurs that I've talked to, they get into business because they value freedom. They want to attain a certain level of freedom. And then I go back to if you don't have money in the bank, it just doesn't matter how much freedom you have because you can't go out and do anything. So if you're trying to compete on every one of these fronts, well, at the end of it all, you are going to run yourself ragged. You're going to stroke out and have a heart attack. And then you're not going to have any money to show for it anyway, which means you will never be at a point of actually being able to enjoy the fruits of the labor and all of the risk and responsibility that you take on when you get into entrepreneurship. So I'm sitting here telling you, as small business, in business, I just think it's a losing proposition to compete on price. That is a piece that you need to give up to big business, because big business is always going to find a way to screw it down to actually get that much cheaper. And if you're going to go in business, do you really want to have the pride of the quality and have that great feeling of taking care of people and do the all-nighters so that you can actually produce some kind of speed only to get to it all and have pennies to show for it? No, I would rather have dollars to show for it. It's the reward getting to the other side, knowing that you gave your best effort to deliver a high quality product with exceptional service, and it was worth the stretch. There's actually more money in the bank tomorrow than there was today because of the effort. But if you're trying to look at those big business competitors and compete on their price points, it's just a zero-sum game. You're never actually going to win. And then I will also put across to you, because in 17 years, I've had to have this conversation with several people and with other businesses. So my father calls me one day and he says, hey, do you know anybody that can actually work on my car and do me right? And I was like, yes. And I gave him a reference to an individual. Well, he did what I expected him to do. He fixed his car. He took care of him. He did quality work, and then he presented him with the bill. The bill wasn't what my father thought it was going to be. And my father goes, I thought you said he would take care of me. I said, yes, exactly. He will take care of you. He took care of your vehicle. He fixed it properly. He serviced what you asked him to do. The price is what the price is. I did not tell you that you were going to get cheap out of him. I told him he would take care of you. Okay. When you are talking to your customers, when you are talking to your friends, if they're trying to screw you down on price, are they a customer worth having? Is it a friendship truly worth having? Like, if you perform a service, if you deliver a product, I would think that you want to be compensated fairly for that, for your time. What is your time worth? I'm going to be honest. I mean, like, the first 10 years of business, I worked for less than minimum wage. There are sacrifices that you have to make in order to live to fight another day and make sure that your doors get open. But my menu, the products that I offer, the services that I offer, have always been at a fair price. There are some times where there's a premium price involved, and if you really want to get into that, I mean, when you get into like numbers themselves to go off of, I'll give you some numbers percentage wise. Like, if a product comes in the door and you have to do little to nothing to turn around and sell it to a customer, there should be 100% markup. Meaning, if you're selling it for $1, then you should be able to pay your distributor 50 cents. If you have to actually bring in a raw product and do something to prep it to combine with other products to turn around and then sell it to your customer, you need to be working with a 25 to 35% cost of sale. Why? Because when you look at those numbers, your labor is going to cost you 25 to 35%. Okay, so let's go on the high side of that. If you got 35% in cost of sale and you got 35% in labor, then every dollar that you brought in, you just ate up 70 cents. Then you got your fixed overhead, your taxes, your insurance, all of your filings and fees of everything that you have to pay for, all of the unknowns of advertising that you have to put out, so that you are trying to get 10, 15, 20, 25 cents of every dollar to the bottom line. Well, when you get it to the bottom line, then the government wants their 30%. And what I'm getting at is, if you try and be all things to all people, and what your cost of sale should be 25 to 35%, because you're trying to be the nice guy, you're going to sit here and say, okay, well, I only paid 50 cents for this, but I had a massive amount of labor that I had to put into it, but I'm only going to mark it up another 50 cents. Like, you've just added another 15%. And I just sat here and said, at 70%, well, you just put another 15% on that. Now you're at 85%. You are cutting your own throat. It is not worth doing the work. And you need to understand and accept that you have to achieve a fair price for the product or service that you're delivering, or you're going to stroke out. You're not going to have anything to show for it. So be unapologetic, and the price is what the price is, so that you can be proud that you're offering a high quality product, that you are taking the time to offer exceptional service with great communication, that you are doing it at a realistic expectation of speed and consistency, because at the end of the day, you have to establish an expectation, and you have to meet that expectation every single time. You have to be consistent in what you're doing in order to actually stay in business. So when you can really sit back and start thinking about these things, then you can sit back, and every decision that comes to you, how does it line up with what you've decided that you want to compete on? Because you cannot compete on all four fronts, not in win in any way, shape, or form. If you try and be all things to all people, you will be nothing to nobody, including yourself. And what is your time worth? How much value are you bringing to the world? And what is fair compensation for that value? unapologetically, because I understand after 17 years that when you take on that risk, when you take on that responsibility, you are taking on a load of stress, and there has to be a monetary value assigned to what is taking on that stress worth, because you don't have that level of stress or responsibility if you go work for somebody else, and that somebody else is sitting there assessing that stuff. And that's why their price points are what they are. But when you get into small business, all too often, I see everybody trying to compete on all fronts, and they get to the end of the year and all that effort, all that labor, all that sacrifice, and they don't have anything to show for it. And that is the saddest part, because you should be able to look somebody in the eye and say, man, I'm giving you a high quality product. I'm doing everything I can to take care of you. Don't try and drive the price down on me. Pay me what the price is, because I deserve to put food on my table, and I deserve to be rewarded for all of this effort just like everybody else. I understand when you are developing a customer base that you will find yourself trying to go the extra mile and do things unprofitably in order to get your product or service out there or to become known. And I'm not saying that there's not several things that you should not do in your first year of business when you're actually trying to develop recognition or awareness for the product or service that you're selling. I'm saying at some point, and at some point early, you have to make that switch where it can't be about price, because there has got to be a reward at the end of all of the effort. And if you train people, and I'm talking about people when I'm talking about your customers, that you are willing to discount your product or service, then they will forever expect you to be discounting your product and service. And it is a mentality you don't want. If you are going to deliver a quality product, it's like it's an oxymoron to actually attach that to discount. Don't give discounts. Be unapologetic about the price. Be proud of the quality. Tell all of your people that you are going to have a culture of serving others, of serving each other. You cannot do that if you do not have money in the bank. You will not have money in the bank if you are not charging an appropriate price for your products. You have to have money in the bank. You have to be able to charge a fair value in order to have money in the bank to both think about reinvesting in your business, about giving a higher quality of life and more money to the people that you're actually employing, and still having something left over to make it all worth the stretch. So I'm just being very clear that when I took over Vickers, we had a gentleman come in, and him and one of the girls was reminiscing about Matt, and we all miss Matt. And when he asked who took the business over, and she told him Jason Julius, he stopped and looked up at her and said, so the prices are going up. Yes, the prices are going up. But you know what? He still came in. He still put in his order. The turnaround time was appropriate. The quality was a high quality product. And everybody that I employ, I beat it into their head. We have to take care of people. We have to deliver exceptional service so that people appreciate that they're actually doing business with us. But the price is what the price is, because you have to keep your doors open, and you should be unapologetic about actually delivering a high quality product, and the price is what the price is. Okay. I will get off my soapbox. If anything that I said resonates, or if you know of somebody that just needs to hear this message because they're struggling in business, please share the show. There are many small businesses that I think need to hear this message, because the more defined you get about what you are trying to accomplish, the easier decision making actually becomes. And you should not be putting in all of that time and effort year after year and getting to the end of the year and not having anything to show for it. So, all right, that is my podcast for today. So until next time, you guys have a good night.